Good morning, everyone. Let's see. Okay. Good morning. How's everyone doing? I'm Elisa, for those of you who are new, and I'm also the Jersey girl. And today we're making chili oil focaccia. Um, so it's actually going to be pretty similar to what we did last week when we did ciabatta. It's going to be a high hydration dough. And all that means is that we're going to add a lot of liquid to the dough, 80% hydration to be exact. So that means, say, if we're adding 500 grams of flour, we're adding 400 grams of water. So that's 80% hydration. And that means the dough is going to be sticky. So we're going to try to touch it as little as possible while still getting it nice and strong. So let's just get started. The way I have it planned out today is we're going to mix all the dough and do the stretch and folds now. And then at 10 a.m. approximately, we'll take a break and come back at 1 p.m. Assuming that the fermentation is done by that time. And then we'll, do the fun stuff, dimple the dough with the oil and bake it. We'll bake it today. I also have a high inoculation, and actually, last week I tried this, or actually earlier this week on Wednesday I tried this and it didn't work. So let's try again. It's there. Okay, so you should be able to see the dough. Oh, that's so cute. Okay, so let's see. Should I zoom it in? Does it work? It does work. How come I can't tell what's going on here? Oh, that's why. Okay. That's good. So a high inoculation, that just means that I added a lot of sourdough starter to the mix. So this is like a 50% inoculation or something like that. It's a pretty high inoculation. Usually people do 20%. Now the reason I did that is because I want this to be done today. I'm not going to put it in the fridge and finish it tomorrow. I'm going to finish it with you guys today. So I want it to ferment quickly, so that's why I did a high inoculation. So this is 250 grams of sourdough starter. Usually I would do between 100 and 150, sometimes even less during the summer, sometimes like 80 grams during the summer to avoid over fermentation. But for this one, I'm honestly not really worried about over fermentation with the focaccia. I would have to leave it out for a long time for it to over ferment because the structure of the focaccia is important because you want those big airy holes. I'm not worried about it not holding its shape because it's going into a pan, so I don't need it to be perfectly round or something like that. It'll be okay. It's an easy bread to make, actually, because you don't have to shape it. So let's see, this is 250 grams of sourdough starter. I already have it in the bowl because I fed it last night. I separated it into this bowl and fed it last night. It's easier for me to do it that way. But you can take it right out of the fridge, honestly. It's possible. Okay? It might rise a little slower, but it's possible. So I'm going to do it a little differently. It's the same as last week, but a little differently than I usually do. I'm going to do it by 400 grams of flour because there's such a high amount of sourdough starter in here. So I'm going to do 320 grams of this water. See? Oh, nice. Oh, that's good. You can't really see the, maybe you won't be able to see that just because the bowl's covering it. Yeah, I don't think you'll be able to see, but it's 320 grams. Trust me. Don't forget your salt. I almost forgot. 7 grams of salt. Salt is really important. It helps build the gluten. Um, it helps control the fermentation. I know I've gotten asked, like, can you make bread without salt? And the quick answer is no. You can't really, but like, I'm sure you can. I'm sure there are ways, there are methods, but salt is an important ingredient. I had a little bit too much salt actually, but it should be okay. It might just take a little longer to ferment. Okay, so now we just need our dry ingredients. See how easy this is? We're almost done. Okay, I'm going to use 100 grams of white whole wheat flour and then 300 grams of bread flour. You can use all bread flour if you want. I like to add a little whole wheat to everything I make. Move this out of the way. I add white whole wheat is just a different type of whole wheat. It's just a lighter colored whole wheat. You can also use regular whole wheat if you don't have this. I just use it so it just mimics the color. It doesn't look like whole wheat bread. So it's going to be 400 grams of flour in total. Okay, that's good. So this is fun, right? You guys can see me mixing it. For those of you who were here last week, or a lot of you probably weren't here because it was in the beginning of the stream. But I keep referring to what happened last week with my camera. So I'll just explain. I set up the camera last week for the first time. I was just trying to do what I have here, which today it's working. I think it's really cute. So I'm happy about that. But on Wednesday, I was making mushroom banh mi, which I will post a picture of it. I had to make more mushrooms because we used all the mushrooms on Wednesday, and even my husband joined us on Wednesday, so that was a really nice surprise. I wasn't sure how long he was going to stay, if he wanted to be on camera for that long, but he stayed and like had a little mukbang with me, so that was nice. But basically we made mushroom banh mi on the ciabatta, and we had a discussion of whether or not that disqualifies it from being a banh mi. My husband really liked it, so my husband said it was better than the baguette. But yeah, that's a controversial one. But basically, I had set up the camera for the first, and it took me the night before. It took me like an hour or so to get it figured out because, and it's mostly, it's not my computer, and it's not really the camera per se. It's the and I shouldn't down talk it because it's working right now. If I talk bad about it, maybe it'll stop working. It's the web imaging. I forgot what it's called. it's the imaging software from Sony that's kind of buggy. And I had tried to use it, like, I forgot what I was trying to do with it, but when I first got the camera, I tried to use it and I just couldn't figure it out, so I just gave up on it. But now I had a purpose. I had more of a purpose. I was like, I want to get it to work on OBS, and I saw some videos of people doing it, so I'm like, okay, they are doing it, so it's possible. It took me like an hour to figure it out because it was buggy. And then I tested it out again. I got it to work, and then I tested it out again before my stream on Wednesday, and it worked. But I didn't test it out I tested it out like 20 minutes before my stream, and not like right before, not like a minute before my stream, which is what I did today. Today, I didn't even test it out like a half hour ago. I just tested it out right before my stream, like to make sure it was working right now. But I tested it out like 20 minutes before my stream, and then I was like, okay, it works. But then once it came time to my stream, it wasn't working. And I was so annoyed. I was just like, it took me so long to figure this out, and now it's not going to work. And it was just working. Now it's working, so I shouldn't badmouth it. Shouldn't badmouth the Sony imaging software. You don't want any dry spots, but we're not going to touch it right now. So just keep going until there's no dry spots, until it's almost done. It's a ball, right? You want it to be like a rough ball. We're not going to touch it right now because it's really wet, and we're going to get our hands all sticky. So we don't want to touch it. If anyone missed it last time, my husband came on stream, like I said, which was really nice. And he did a nice, his infamous Australian accent. And he entertained us all. I clipped it. If you guys are interested, there's a clip of my husband doing an Australian accent. It's really quite great. I highly recommend watching it. It's a workout, this is. Almost done. Just see some dry bits in there. I want to get those out. All right. So now what we're going to do is I'm going to cover it up and let it rest for a half hour. So let me take this off this fork. Actually, I take that back because it's a high inoculation, which just means it's going to ferment faster. Because it's going to ferment faster, I'm going to let it rest for only 20 minutes. So it's almost 8:20, so like 8:40. We can actually take off the cam. Okay. So I'll let it rest until 8:40 about. And then we'll do our first stretch and fold. And the stretch and folds are just, you'll see me doing them. I do them almost every stream. So almost every weekend I'm doing stretch and folds. Sometimes I need, like for the bagel recipes, I was needing them. But the stretch and folds are going to help us build the gluten. So we're doing that instead of kneading. Kneading this dough would be really annoying. You can take my word for it. Kneading the dough of an 80% hydration dough is going to be very annoying, and I don't recommend doing it. Instead, gluten is magic, as we know. As I keep saying, it's magic. It'll form by itself. The wetter the dough, the more the gluten will form by itself. So if you give the dough resting time, the gluten strands will actually connect, and you're just gonna help out by doing the stretch and folds every 20 minutes, but it's doing a lot of the work by itself. Then after three to four stretch and folds, we'll do 8:49. Yeah, we'll do four. We'll end at 9:40. After that, we're going to let it bulk ferment for a few hours. It's a high inoculation. I did that on purpose, like I said, because I want to finish it today. So I'll come back around 1 p.m. We'll take a break. I'll come back at 1 p.m. when it's done bulk fermenting, and we will finish it. We will dimple the dough with the chili oil, and we will let it do the proofing, which is important. I'll talk about it more later, but the proofing stage, this is going to help. Those big bubbles you see in the focaccia? Yeah, you get those when in the proofing stage. So you have to do the proofing stage to get those big bubbles. And then we will bake. And we'll do all that today. So one day focaccia. Yeah. And I made this. This is the third time I'm making it. The first time was a few weeks ago. I mean, I made focaccia a lot, but the chili oil focaccia, this is the third time I'm making it. The first time was like an experiment. My husband loved it. He loves it. He loves this. He likes my chili oil a lot. It's a homemade chili oil, and I'm not going to make it here today with you, but eventually I will probably make it with you. I already had some made, and actually that's why I wanted to do this. I had some made for something else, and there's a lot left over because I made a big batch. And so I always try to use up what's hanging around, right? I use up what I have first before I get anything else or try anything else. I mean, I have all these ideas like of things I want to make, but first I have to try to use up what's in the fridge. That's my rule for myself, because I do get a lot of ideas, a lot of bright ideas of things I want to try, but they might require another ingredient or something, special ingredient that I'm only going to use a little bit of, and then I'm like, oh, what else do I do with this? So I have to use up those things first. So going back, this is a homemade chili oil, but it's really, really easy, really easy. It was just onions. I used gochugaru, the Korean red chili flakes, and I use like a lot of them. So it's onions, gochugaru, and oil, obviously. I think it was sunflower oil, but you can use whatever neutral flavored oil. I wouldn't use like olive oil, it'd probably burn and it wouldn't taste good. But just use any neutral oil that has a high smoke point. And I wouldn't use something like coconut oil either, because even though it has a pretty high smoke point, it would become firm in the fridge. And I mean, it might be good, but I don't think it would be a chili oil. So yeah, and then I did use miso in this one. But what I usually like to do, and I was talking about this the other day, how do you spell his name? I'll put him a shout out in the chat once there's more people here, because I don't think there's that many people lurking here. But if you are lurking, welcome. Continue lurking as you choose. But essentially, I was talking about this the other day that I like to use dubunjang. I think that's how you pronounce it, dubunjang. Basically, it's a Szechuan faba bean and chili paste. and it's so good. I don't know how to describe what it tastes like. It is kind of like miso, but more. It's more funky than miso is. It's stronger tasting than miso is. So I usually use that, but like I said, I didn't want to buy that because it had miso in the fridge. I don't like to have. I will because I will. I don't like to have 500 bean paste in the fridge because they're all fermented bean paste essentially. They're fermented bean paste. I also have another fermented bean paste. It's not open yet, but I have it, so I can't just keep buying them. What is it? Gochujang, which is the one with red chilies, and it's kind of like miso, but it has red chilies in it. It's the Korean one. I have that too. Yeah, so I can't just keep buying them. So I use miso in this one, but I do. My favorite one is when I use dubunjang. I think is how you say it, but it is a Chinese fava bean paste. Yeah. So yeah, I can't have 10 containers of fermented bean paste in the fridge. I mean, I can, but it wouldn't be ideal. I think my fridge would be full of these things. I only have so much space in there, and I need to clean it out for bread. So yeah, you understand. You guys understand, I'm sure. So yeah, the chili. Yeah, going back to the chili oil. So I made this chili oil for something else. It was actually for I don't know if you guys use um, like soy chunks. There's another name for them. They also have soy curls. Soy curls. It's basically dehydrated soy. TVP. That's it. TVP. It's textured vegetable protein, but it's made with soy. So they sell it in like granules. They sell it in chunks. They sell it as uh, the curls are Butler's. I think is the brand. Butler's soy curls is a common one. Although I only find it in like health food stores. I've never found it in a regular grocery store. But anyway, in regular grocery stores, they do sell TVP, the granules. I've seen that. And the soy chunks I found at the Indian grocery store. And they were very inexpensive. So I got some from the Indian grocery store last time I was there. But yeah, I used the chili oil. They're defatted. They're called dehydrated, I believe. Maybe it. I think they're called dehydrated, but they're really defatted. Okay. They take the fat out. It's a byproduct of the soy oil industry. So they take the fat out of the soy and dry whatever is left, and that's TVP. So they took all the fat out. So there's really no fat in these things. So you can add fat back into them with whatever you want. So I sometimes use chili oil to add fat back into them. So that's that's the original purpose of the chili oil. But I had a lot left over. So I thought, wouldn't this be good on focaccia? Because focaccia obviously usually has olive oil on it. So this is just another type of oil. And I was right because my husband loves this. So yeah, this is my third time making it. I made it a few weeks ago for the first time as an experiment. And then I made it again on Thursday just to get a video, pictures, and, test out the timing of it. And now I'm making it again today. So you're welcome. You're welcome. Yeah. So yeah, like I said, my husband loves it. What I make today, I put mushrooms and hummus and the sriracha mayo in it. He's gonna like that. He likes anything in it, basically. But yeah. I think this might be his favorite one. I'll have to ask him what his favorite focaccia is that I've made. It might just be the regular one, honestly, the one I make with like tomatoes and olive oil and herbs and Italian herbs. He might like that one the best. I don't know. I'll have to ask him. But I'm Kyo says, hello, sister. Hello, Kyo. Kyo, you are not my sister. Kyo says, happy Saturday. Hope you've had a good week. Happy Saturday, Kyo. I hope you had a good week too. We're making chili oil focaccia. We already mixed the dough, but now we are going to do some stretch and folds in a few minutes to strengthen the dough. How's your week going, Kyo? And I was just talking about I'll have to wait till he comes home, or maybe during the break I'll send him a text and ask him so I can get the deets. I don't know what my husband's favorite focaccia is. It might be this one that I'm making. But I was thinking I'm not going to tell you which one my favorite is, because I'm keeping it a secret. It's my secret recipe. But I'll tell you which one my second favorite is. My second favorite one is one that I make with apples. I make an apple pie focaccia, and it is so good. I love this. I love the sweet focaccias. Honestly, like they're top. You might think that's weird, but it tastes like an apple pie. So I'm not mad about that. Kyo said, it's all right. Got past something at work that's been stressing me out for a few weeks, so that felt good. Yes, secret, Kyo. I'm keeping it a secret because I might want to use it later for something. So it won't be secret forever. Just for now. Just for now. To get your interest up for my next project. Or not my next one, but might be a while. But you'll see. But yeah, the apple pie one I won't keep a secret. That one is so good. So good. So I highly recommend it. I know I'm making the chili oil one now, but if you're a focaccia person, I highly recommend trying the sweet focaccias. You might think, oh, that's weird. Focaccia's supposed to be savory. Why would you make it sweet? No, it's so good sweet. It's sweet focaccias are so good. And the apple pie one is really good. So Kyo, do you like focaccia? And if so, I was asking everyone what's their favorite one. That was actually the question of the day. Let's see. Question. Aha! What's the best focaccia topping? Yeah, so what's the best focaccia topping? Kyo says, I don't know if I've ever had it. Oh, okay. Kyo, do you know what it is, though? Focaccia? I am uncultured. It's okay. I don't think that means you're uncultured. It's just, I assumed everyone had it because I feel like it's a common bread to make at home. But I have to remember that I'm in, when I'm on, say, my Instagram feed, everyone I'm following, well, not everyone, but a lot of people I'm following are bakers. So I always see them making focaccia and stuff like that. So I have to remember that. And Kyo says, yeah, I know what it is. Yeah. So the most common thing, and, if those of you don't know who it is, I know Kyo said he knows what it is, but it's a flatbread. But it's not flatbread in the same way. It's kind of like a pizza. Okay, it's flat. You can make it round, but a lot of times they make it in big rectangles, and and it's fluffy. Unlike a pizza that is like thinner crust, it's like a fluffier crust, and you can put toppings on it. But most commonly, the simplest toppings are olive oil and rosemary. That's like the simplest topping. Like if you had it, you probably had that version, or you've had one that has maybe olive oil, rosemary, and tomatoes, or something like that, or olives or something. Those are simple ones, but you can put like anything on it, as you can see. And we're going to use chili oil today instead of olive oil. We can always I think the first time I made it, I put scallions on it, so we could do that. We could do that too, just for fun. But the first time I made it, I put scallions on before I baked it, but I think that was a mistake. It wasn't bad or anything, but I think the scallions would be better after I baked it, so they wouldn't get so crispy. Or maybe in the middle of baking, I don't know. Just definitely not before though. It was too crispy. Too crispy. Yeah, and another thing about focaccia, I mentioned it before, but it's a high hydration dough, which means we're not going to um, try to touch it too much. We're not going to knead it at all because it'll be too sticky for us. So we're just going to do stretch and fold, which I think actually we can do very soon. In a few minutes, we'll just start the first set of stretch and fold so I can show you what that looks like. And by the way, Keo, I think you were here on Wednesday. I think you were. If not, I'll tell you anyway. I got the camera working now. So once we do the stretch and folds, I'll switch to the next scene and I'll show you the camera. Okay, we have a first time chatter. Dylan the old man. Pro tip, when you do stretch and fold, wear gloves. It never gets stuck to your hands when you do, works really well. Oh, Dylan. Dylan the old man, thank you. Thank you. Welcome to the chat. I'm Elisa, by the way. If you weren't here, I'm not sure if you just entered or if you were listening the whole time. But that's interesting. I've never tried to wear gloves. Like, what kind of gloves do you wear? Here's, if you use like plastic gloves, I would be afraid of the waste. I guess I would think it's wasteful unless you keep reusing the same plastic gloves. That's my only 2 cents on that. But Dylan the old man says, try it. You must have somewhere in the kitchen or house. Yeah, the only gloves we have are the plastic gloves, which my husband uses for cleaning. Dylan says, do you have, I don't know what nitrile is, but I do know what latex gloves are obviously. Yeah, I have some latex gloves, but I usually use them for cleaning dishes or for gardening. So I'd have to wash them before I use them. I'm going to show you to do it with wet hands. But maybe another time I can try the glove method. If you use latex gloves, so latex gloves work. I'm very surprised if latex gloves work. I guess it could. It feels like a big mess. Dylan the man says, try using the plastic ones. That's what I use. It works. Give it a try. And do you reuse them every single time or do you throw them out? No shame if you throw them out. That would be my concern. It's like that would be, because I bake a lot. That would be a lot of gloves I would be going through just to do some stretch and folds. I reuse them. Okay, he reuses them twice. So at least you reuse them twice. Yeah. So that's one way. I mean, if you guys are worried about the dough sticking to your hands, especially for this wet, we're talking about a pretty high hydrated dough, then you can try that. What I'm going to show you to do today is to wet your hands and then touch the dough with wet hands. Wetting your hands is better than adding flour. And I'll show you. Even with this wet dough, it's not going to get too stuck. You're not going to have like super sticky hands afterwards. So I'll show you that. But that's an interesting technique to try to use plastic gloves. I don't think I've seen people do that except maybe if they're like working in an industrial kind of setting and maybe an actual bakery where they don't want to touch things because, unsanitary. But even then with the dough, I don't think I've seen people use gloves really with the dough. Usually they use gloves with the finished product for sanitation purposes. But I digress. Let me show you the cam. Aha! Look, you guys can see the dough. Okay, so we waited about 20 minutes. I'm going to show you how to do it with wet hands. So I have water here. I have the dough here. You see the dough still looks like a mess. Dylan the man says, yeah, there would be no reason to use it for sanitary reasons. I just do it so my hands don't get all dirty. Yeah, I mean, dough can get sticky. I find that the more, so there's another reason why I wouldn't use, especially the latex gloves. Latex gloves are kind of bulky. At least mine are. I have little hands. So even the latex size small gloves are kind of big on my hands and they're bulky. And I feel like I couldn't feel the dough. And something that's good about touching the dough is that you can kind of feel it. You can kind of suss it out, see what's going on with it. And I like that aspect of getting your hands into the dough. But I wet my hand. This hand is wet. So now I'm going to touch it. And see? It's not perfect. There's some, right? I can wet them again. But there's some dough on the hand, but not a lot. And this is, I mean, I like to feel, because now I can feel if there's like a knot in the dough. See? It's not that bad. Now I'm not going to go in and just start kneading it like crazy, because then it will get stuck to my hands. But I'm just doing some stretch and folds. And the stretch and folds, notice what I'm doing. I just take a corner of the dough, and I stretch it out. You can see, I stretch it out, and then I fold it over. And while I'm doing that, I'm trying to get rid of any dry bits or knots that I find in the dough. Stretch it out, fold it over. Which there are some just because we didn't touch the dough before. So I do it until I get it into this little ball. You see that? It's like a little ball. So cute. Now every time I do the stretch and folds, it'll be easier and easier. And this is what my hands look like. Just want to show you. It's really not that bad. The dough comes right off. See? It's not that bad. So, like I've had worse. Especially when you first start baking and you're new, you might have worse outcomes with the hands, but it's all about the light touch that you give to the dough. I just touch it like lightly, pull it over, and then the wet hands really helps. If you are interested in trying Dylan the old man's, I don't know if you want me to call you the old man every single time, Dylan, but if you're interested in trying his method of the gloves, let me know. Give me your feedback. Give me your results for the test. But see, it's not that bad. So yeah, so now we're gonna let it sit for another 20 minutes. So what time is it? 8:40. We'll let it sit until 9. And then we'll do a second set of stretch and folds and we'll keep going from there. And something that I always mention, but I feel like I should keep mentioning, is while sourdough does require patience, it definitely requires patience, and maybe you'd be home most of the day when you're making it. Yes, that is true. But it really isn't that much work. So notice we just mix the dough. Now I'm doing stretch and folds. Then I'm going to let it rest and in between the stretch and folds, I let it rest. Then I'm going to let it rest after my stretch and folds for a few hours for it to ferment. Then we're going to get it into the pan and dimple it. Then I'm going to let it rest again. And then I'm going to bake it. So most of it is letting it rest. So if I weren't here talking to you guys, I could be doing a lot of things in between the rests. It's not that time consuming, is what I mean. If you have, it's a good weekend project. If you have the day at home and you're not doing much, maybe even you're working from home, you can do it when you're working from home. And yeah, because I want everyone to have their own sourdough. So I think it's worth it if you're a baker. I know Dylan the old man looks like he has his own sourdough. Which, by the way, Dylan the old man, what's the name of your sourdough starter? Assuming you have one. By the way, you chimed in earlier. It sounded like you did have one. So yeah, I'm an advocate. I'm a sourdough advocate. I think if you like baking or if you're curious about making your own bread, I think you should try it, and you should try growing your own sourdough starter, borrowing one a little bit from a friend. You can even purchase them online, but I mean, I think it's easy enough to grow yourself. So, you can try it. And it's actually, I'll write it in the chat. If you go to my website and go to the recipe section of my website, I not only have the sourdough recipes that we work on here, I also have a recipe for sourdough starter. I highly recommend going there. I use rye flour to start my sourdough starter. I'm also going to update it with a stiff starter. I don't think anyone's used. Actually, I can't say for sure. I can't say for sure if anyone. No one's given me any feedback on it, so I don't think many people have used the sourdough starter recipe. But if you do, please give me feedback. But that's the way I created my sourdough starter. When I first did it, I did it with rye flour. And then once I was done with the rye flour starter, or not done, but it had become mature and it worked. And I actually used it that way for a few years. And actually, when I was going to start this cottage bakery is when I transformed it into a stiff starter. So I started to use bread flour, but I changed the ratio I was feeding it. I just kept it stiffer. So that means I fed it more dry to wet ingredients. It was 2-to-1 flour to water. So say 100 grams flour to 50 grams water. So that's why I kept it stiff. And I'm going to go back to the rye starter really quickly. But before I do that, explaining the stiff starter, the reason I did that, the reason why I kept it stiff is because it holds its height, it holds its maturity. Sorry, the squirrel, I don't know what he's got in his mouth. Okay. It holds its maturity for a longer period of time. That means that when for example, if I feed my sourdough starter, whose name is Esther, if I feed her tonight at 8 p.m., say, I can use her tomorrow 7 a.m., but I can also use her tomorrow at 10 a.m. I'm not worried about the sourdough starter deflating at all. In fact, if I keep my starter in the fridge, I can use Esther right from the fridge, and I've never had a problem. It might take a little longer to rise when I use the starter from the fridge, but I've never had a problem with it not making bread. Okay? I have had that problem before when I was using my rye starter. It wasn't as strong as my stiff starter now is so strong. It's just it never loses its activity, I could say. Right? It never loses its activity. So that's why I use a stiff starter. But going back, I started my sourdough starter with a rye starter because rye flour has a lot of good nutrients that the bacteria and the yeast like. So it's a good place to start. I also do a no discard method. That means there's no waste. You can discard your sourdough starter if you want to use it for like banana bread, which is also, I have a miso sourdough discard banana bread on my website. I have a few discard recipes already up there actually. So if you want to use your discard for a recipe like that, then that's fine. You can discard your starter, but you don't need to every single time that you feed your starter. And that's the beauty of it. Bless you, Munchkin. Bless you. Bless you, Munchkin. Little angel. I also have instructions, which is basically the same instructions of how to use or how to make a sourdough starter that's gluten-free. I use buckwheat flour to make it gluten-free. So those instructions are on there on my website as well if you're curious about that. So yeah. And also I do have a gluten-free sourdough starter if you're wondering. I do. And she's in the fridge. She's sitting in the fridge where she lives. I am having trouble, okay? I'm having trouble getting gluten-free bread from the sourdough starter. Every time I do it, I'm not happy with it. And I don't like adding like million grams of starch to my bread. I think it's so weird. It's like bizarro world. But I have used it successfully to make a lot of gluten-free treats, like the cornbread and the banana bread I've made gluten-free totally so simply, and they're really good. And I have used it to ferment injera, which if you don't know, injera is an Ethiopian flatbread that is traditionally is gluten-free because it's made with teff flour. So it's, I'm really just making it the regular way. That's how they make it. And it is traditionally also made with sourdough. So not necessarily the sourdough starter the way that we think of it necessarily, but it's essentially the same thing. It is fermented teff flour, so it's like a sourdough. And so I have used it to make the injera. I'm thinking, we'll see it. I'll tell you guys here because you guys are special, but thinking about selling that this summer because I have a lot of people requesting the gluten-free sourdough, but I'm not sure I'll have a loaf ready for the summer because I always get discouraged and then I put it to the back burner and I don't do it anymore. But the injera I think could be ready for the summer. It's pretty much ready. I'll probably test it out again just to see how it works like in the package to make sure it stays good in the package. Because that's a big problem when you're selling. It's not only is it good, it's like how does it store? How does it store in the packaging that you give to the customer, right? You can't just say, oh, it's good. Yeah, but how does it travel? Because you have to get it to their house or they have to get it to their house. What if it breaks apart by the time they get it to their house? Those are the things that, I would need to make sure that it works that way. Because otherwise, there's no point in selling it. But I have a lot of customers asking about gluten-free, and I told them I'm working on it, and now I feel like I'm disappointing them because it's been like a year. I've been working on it for like a year, and I don't know if it's going to come out. I'm not sure about this one, Chooch. But yeah, the injera though, and since it's a naturally gluten-free bread anyway, there wasn't that much troubleshooting. The only troubleshooting was getting it, because a lot of the recipes online that I was looking at, I found weren't right, and I had to do some real research to find out how injera is traditionally made. It is a longer process, the traditional method, more so than a lot of the ones I was finding online, which were much quicker. But once I made it the traditional way, once I made the injera the traditional way, it was great. Yeah, it's worth the few extra steps is what I'm trying to say. So Dylan the man said, sorry, I'm back. No need to be sorry, Dylan. I know you guys are busy. You don't always have to be on the chat. So Dylan asked what step is next. So in a few minutes, we're going to do the second stretch and folds. So for those of you who are, I guess, relatively new in the chat, as I explained this earlier, but I know it takes a few minutes for everyone to get in the chat. So this is the plan for today. So today, I started at 8 a.m. and I mixed the dough, and now I'm doing stretch and folds. We'll be done around 10 a.m. with the stretch and folds. And then at that time, I'm going to take a break while the dough is doing its bulk ferment. I guess we could chat for like 4 hours while the dough is fermenting, but I think it's good. That's a good time for us to take a break. And so we'll take a break around 10, and I'll come back around 1 p.m. The dough should be done or almost done bulk fermenting by that time. And so we'll come back, and then I'll show you how to put it in the pan. It's so easy. This focaccia is so easy. So I'm going to put it in the pan, and then I'm going to dimple it with the chili oil. So I'll show you that step. And then we'll let it proof for 1 to 2 more hours. I'll stay with you while it's proofing. It doesn't take that long to proof. It's a little chilly in here, so hopefully it doesn't take too long. And then we'll bake it. So that's exciting. And so we're going to bake it all today. And because sometimes, for those of you who are new, sometimes I do it in a 2-day process. But today and last week we did it in one day. So then we'll bake it, and I'll show you the final product. So yeah, it's so easy. This dough is so easy. This bread. So yes, let me put the cam back. This is my cam. There you go. So let's look before I wet my hands. Looks good. It looks more together already, right? And let's wet my hands and do a second stretch and fold. See? And see, look, there's almost nothing on my hands now. And the dough is strong now, too. While I'm pulling on it, it's not breaking. That's a good sign. So then we're going to get it into the ball again. Tighter ball this time. Every time we do it, it'll get tighter and tighter. And then, you guys can let me know if you know what that's from. I think you guys do. I think I mentioned it last time. So yeah, it's in a ball. I'll stop it there. Little ball, see? So cute. So that was our second set of stretch and folds. So now I'm going to cover it up again and wait another 20 minutes until about 9:20 and do a third set of stretch and folds. The third one probably is enough, but I'm going to do a fourth one too, just to hang out with you guys a little bit more and just show you a fourth one. So 3 to 4 sets of stretch and folds. The third one is probably enough, honestly. But the dough looks pretty strong already, so that's good. I'll show you the next set. I'll show you a window pane test with this camera. I can show you a good example of a window pane test. So let us go back to the regular scene. There you go. So Dylan, I asked earlier, but you might have not been here. I'm assuming you have a sourdough starter. What's the name of your sourdough starter? Or anyone else in the chat, you can tell me the name of your sourdough starter. But I know Dylan's here. So what's the name of your sourdough starter? Mine's name is Esther. But the original sourdough starter, the daddy, his name is Tim. Esther's a daughter. Sorry, my New Jersey accent came out. Esther, Tim is the dad. Esther's a daughter, and I also have a gluten-free one, which I always, she's like a neglected daughter. She's neglected. Her name is Mary Sue, and I neglect her. I always forget about her, but I use her a lot. Like, I use her a lot for my sourdough discard stuff. I use her to make granola. I use her to make banana bread. I use her to make cornbread. I use her to make cookies. Like, I use her a lot. I use her to make crepes, but I don't use her a lot to make bread. Not quite. Not quite. Okay, let me get... I'm gonna get the charger in. It's right here. Too many wires. There you go. Too many wires. Okay. So yeah, it's I think it's a nice day out today. It's a little cloudy here in New Jersey. Looking outside, looking around. I mean, the cherry blossoms are out though. The trees are starting to bloom. They're starting to look a little green. The birds and the squirrels are out, but they're always out. They don't sleep, I don't think. They're just always around. But yeah, it's nice. I think it just might be a little windy, which might be why it's chilly in here. I don't have a window open in here, but I have a window open in the kitchen. I might close it, but I like to get some fresh air in. So, especially in the spring, I like to get some fresh air in because that's the you gotta take it while you got it, basically. And it's spring and fall. It's so beautiful, so comfortable. The temperature is so comfortable, and then once the winter and summer comes, you have to close your windows and put the AC on or put the heat on. So you gotta take advantage of things while you have them, basically. And that's it's a good way to live life in general. I'm giving you some wise words, so you should write that down. Okay, you guys don't know what that's from either, so it's okay. I'm just telling myself my own inside jokes. We could do a whole stream where I'm telling myself my own inside jokes. I don't know how well this would go over, but and then I would just laugh at myself and no one would watch me. That would be fun. I think I would have fun doing that. I don't know if you guys would, but you guys would have fun because you wouldn't be watching. You would come in and leave, so that would be fun for you. But speaking of my own, I actually don't know how this relates. It relates in my head. So, this is how it relates, like things I could do during stream. So on my Discord, which I'm going to plug in my Discord now. Okay, what I do. Okay. Thank you, Nightbot. Nightbot hanging out in the chat. Join my Discord if you're interested in sharing pictures of your bread creations or cooking in general. I mean, there's a miscellaneous tab too, but it's mostly focused towards baking and cooking, the Discord. And you can share things and basically anything that you have made. There is probably a place for you on Discord to share it, even though it's focused mostly on cooking and actually baking first and then cooking. It doesn't have to be something we did together in here. It could be anything that you're making, right? If you are, we're making chili oil focaccia today, but if you're making, I don't know, cranberry bread or something, or I don't know, banana bread, whatever, you can post it. Okay, and we can all look at it and we can be like, ooh, yum. We like. I mean, I like looking at food pictures, so and I'm sure a lot of you do too. So just throw them up there if you're interested. But how this relates is there's a tab, or I guess they call it a channel. There's a channel on there for ideas and suggestions, and it's for you guys to give me ideas and suggestions. However, I did put some ideas and suggestions in there for myself so I don't forget them, and also so you guys can give me your feedback on what you think, if those would be good ideas or not, or if you'd like to watch them. Because remember, I'm here, but you guys are the watchers, so you guys are the viewers. So we have to, I have to make something that you guys want to watch. So during the summer, which for me starts at the end of May, because for those of you who didn't know, I'm an English teacher. So right now I'm pretty busy because I'm working at, oh, sorry, I shouldn't tell you where I'm working. I'll cut that part out. I'm working at a community college, and I lost my train of thought. I'm working at a community college during the weekdays, and then I'm doing this stuff for you guys, and then I'm also working on recipes, and then I was working on YouTube videos, and and then I also make food for my husband and take care of the house, and I'm pretty busy now. And in the summer, I will be busy in different ways, but I want to kind of expand what I'm doing on Twitch. So what I want to do is, you can look at my Discord and look under the ideas and suggestions tab and see what I want to do. So for example, let's see, something I've written on there is maybe like, I've had some people come in and ask if I have any videos on English or learning English, and I could do some like grammar like games with you guys when the dough is resting, right? Right now I'm just chatting with you, but when the dough is resting, I could do some grammar, the exercises with you. I could do some story times with you, like actually read a short story with you, or do some New Jersey folklore, especially during the fall. Maybe not the summer, but the fall. I want to do some New Jersey folklore with you, like Jersey Devil stuff. That'll be fun. And I mean, there's so much we could do. Yeah, I'm sorry, Dylan. I know Dylan really wants me to use the gloves. I'm not going to get the gloves out because I don't know where they are, and I don't really know if it's sanitary, because all the gloves that I have are either they're for gardening or they're in the bathroom, and therefore my husband cleans with them. So yeah, my husband using like cleaning chemicals, right, for the bathroom. So I just don't really think that's good for now, but maybe another time I'll clean the gloves beforehand and get them ready. I do have gloves in the house, but yeah, they're not, I don't use them for cooking. I do have gloves. I don't know. My husband has them in the bathroom though. Last year I did have gloves for when I was at the farmer's market. I'll ask my husband about them later if they ended up. I think they ended up in the bathroom for my. We'll have to get new ones. I'll have to get new ones this year anyway. So when I get new ones for that, I can always use them for my stretch and folds. But honestly, like my hands, I haven't been getting that dirty, Dylan. I don't know if you noticed that. I mean, yeah, there's some dough on them, but it's really not that much because I wet my hands beforehand. And honestly, that's what I'd recommend for people. Personally, I try to use as little plastic as possible. That's why even like I want to put this right back where it was, but this bowl is really good. It's a 2.5 quart bowl, And I know someone asked about could they just use plastic wrap as the cap, and they can. But what I love about this bowl is it comes with a cap that seals up, and I don't have to use plastic or anything. Well, it is plastic, but it's reusable plastic, right? So I use it. I don't know when it will fall apart. One day it'll probably fall apart, right? One day, but it'll take years, and I use it a lot. Like I use these so much, right? So it's going to get a lot of uses out of it. So I try not to use like single use plastic for things like that I can avoid. That's just my 2 cents. So if you don't like anything sticking to your hands, I understand. And I'm very curious actually about this plastic um, glove method because I've never seen anyone do that before. But for me, if you could just wet your hands and it's fine, then I don't see an issue with just using the wet hands. But yes, I'm curious about Dylan. I'm curious about your method. You're very adamant. You're like it's like how I am an advocate for sourdough starters. Dylan is an advocate for the gloves. Dylan's like use the gloves. The dough won't stick to your hands. So Dylan is a glove advocate. Um, but yes. Um, Getting back to this bowl, something else about this bowl that's really cool. It's just a Pyrex bowl. I'm not sponsored, not sponsored. Okay, but it's a Pyrex bowl, and it's um, it's a 2.5 quart Pyrex bowl. And what's so cool about it is that when it's if you're making this size dough, which I usually make the same size dough, you'll know when it's done fermenting because it'll fill up the bowl. So, assuming right, it's the same type of dough, pretty much. It'll be done fermenting when it's filled up the bowl, and it's just so it's so streamlined. I don't have to worry about is it done yet or is it not done yet. I know when it's done when it fills up the bowl. Okay, so I that's why I really love using these little guys. Even if I'm making a lot, I sometimes just use these little guys because it's just easier for me to tell when it's done. But when I'm baking like a lot, I actually sometimes use. Right now, there's flour in this. Oh, but see, it has lines on it. So right now, it's being used as storage for flour. But in the last summer, I would use these to ferment my dough. So I'd make like I don't know, like 4 loaves of dough and put it in here. And then once I'm done bulk fermenting, I would cut it into 4 loaves, like separate it. I don't really like doing that personally. I don't like doing it. But if I did it this way, I'd have to like measure everything out to see when it was going to be done. And it was just a lot of, it was more tedious because sometimes I'd make 4 loaves in here, but sometimes I'd make 5 loaves in here. I think I could make as many as 6 loaves in here at once. And I think it just couldn't remember when the dough would be done, like what line it would be on. I'd have to sit there and like mark it. Oh, it would be done at this time. And this for me is just easy because I always know it's going to be done once it's all the way to the top, almost touching the cap. It's done, and I have no problems getting it to the right fermentation. So it's just easier. Long story short, you guys are probably not going to be making 6 loaves at once. You guys probably, some of you might, and if you guys open up a cottage bakery, let me know. That would be awesome. I want to know. But most of you probably won't be doing that. You'll probably be making like 1 or 2, maybe 1 for yourself and 1 for your neighbor or something like that. Maybe 3 at once max, right? So you'll probably be making 1 loaf at a time. And because of that, I do like these a lot. I just, like I said, not sponsored, but I like these a lot. I really recommend them. The cap is just so cool too. Like it's the icing on top is these caps. I have so many of these. I don't know. I think I have like 14 of these bowls. No lie, 14 of them. and there have been times when they're all in use. So that was a messy day. Actually, I don't know if I've ever used all 14 at once. I definitely used 10 at once. And it gets messy if I do that, but it's just I don't know. I don't like bulk fermenting in the big plastic tubs. I like these guys. But today we're only doing one, okay, which is actually kind of rare for me. I don't like turning on my oven for only one loaf. Uh, I don't like doing that, but today we're going to do that. I like to use my oven. When I turn it on, I like to get 3 loaves in there because otherwise I'm like, it's a waste of my oven, of my gas. It's a waste of my energy, but yeah. In a few more minutes, we'll do the third stretch and fold. We're almost there. And then we will, only one more left. Only one more left. I actually finally planted my parsley. I remember I told you guys I was going to plant parsley, but it took me a long time. I have to water them. During the break, I'll water them. Guys, remind me, okay? It's your fault if you don't remind me to water my, well, they're not parsley yet. They're little parsley seeds. They didn't sprout yet. But yeah, I have some parsley seeds because in my house, okay, I think it's just because, I mean, I guess my house is just like a harsh environment for these guys. It's a little harsh here, maybe. I don't know. But parsley grows really well in my house, okay? Or maybe it's just my technique. I don't know. Maybe I'm just good with parsley. I have no idea what it is. But I have trouble with specifically mint. I love mint, and I always want to grow mint. And whenever I see it at the farmer's market, like the mint that's already planted, which by the way, farmer's market season's coming up. I'm excited to go to the farmer's market. Not to sell bread, unfortunately, but to buy produce and see everyone else. But anyway, I digress. Yes, I get excited when I see the mint in the little planters at the farmer's market or at the store, and I want to buy it. But it always gets a fungus at my house. Like, they get fungus so easily. And then fungus is really hard to control in your plants, and it spreads really easily to my other plants. And last year it spread to my fig tree, and I cannot let that happen because my fig tree is my baby. And my fig tree's name is Fig, by the way. He's got a very unique name. Fig tree. Fig, the fig tree. Actually, I think all our plants are named that. Yeah, because I have 2 parsley plants, and I think I call them both parsley. I'm like, here's parsley, and there's parsley. Anyway, I have 2 parsley plants that are doing really well, especially since the spring started. I've had them for a few years, but they go through cycles, but they're doing really well. And so I just decided to plant a bunch of parsley so I can just have a big parsley farm in my house. I do eat a lot of parsley, so I think it'll work out. Because I never want to take any of my parsley to eat because I'm like, I'm just going to eat all of it because that's how much I eat. So then I end up buying it anyway. But I think if I had like more parsley plants, that wouldn't happen. So anyway, I digress again. I just decided to plant more parsley because it does pretty well in my house, and I don't want any more fungus. I want my fig plant to do really well this year. Last year, it stopped growing in the middle of the year, the middle of the summer, and I thought it was dead. I thought it was dead. I was so sad, but I didn't give up on it, and it started growing a few months, maybe weeks ago even. It started growing like really fast, like super, super fast. It's huge, and it is growing new leaves, and I'm so happy about that. Hopefully it keeps on that trajectory, and the new leaves that it's growing don't have a fungus, which makes me think the fungus died. So that's good. That is good. Because I was so sad about the fungus on my fig plants. If you guys have a garden, my garden's inside, by the way. I have a fig tree inside my house. And when I buy a house, so that's the goal. When I buy a house that has a yard that I can use, I'm going to plant my fig tree, okay? And that's why the fig tree has to stay alive. And I'm gonna plant my fig tree, and it's gonna be my little baby, and maybe it'll grow figs. It has never grown figs yet. When I bought it, it was a baby, probably 2 years ago. It'll probably take a few more years for it to grow figs. Okay. And by then I'll get more plants. I do want a lemon tree too. I want all the trees. Okay. I want trees. You can grow a lemon tree inside, by the way, guys. You can. But I digress. I'll come back to the lemon trees. Let's do another set of stretch and folds. I don't know left from right, like when it's like this, you know? Let me see. Where is... Yeah, I don't really get... I feel like I'm bad with space as it is, like spatial things. I'll just do this. Yeah, that's fine. Yeah, I don't know why I can't, like, my brain isn't working. I think it's... Yeah, that's why. That's weird. So anyway, I feel like I'm bad with spatial things as it is, but like with OBS, everything is mirrored. So like my brain can't figure out where things are. Now let me zoom in a little. Oops, let me zoom in a little bit. A little bit. Okay, guys. Okay, guys. We got it. So this is the third set of stretch and folds, so it should be really strong. Let me see. I want to see if I can show you a window pane test, if you'll be able to see it. So it's so thin, you still can't see it exactly, but it's so thin that you can see through it. And it's not ripping. That's how you know it's past the window pane test. Like I can see my little, the color of my fingers through. And when I go like this, I can see the light from the window. So if you can stretch it out that far and the dough gets so thin that you can see through it, that's a sign that the gluten is well developed. So, I mean, I can tell, like I can feel that the gluten's well developed, but if you're having trouble telling, that's a way you can check. I'll still do a 4th stretch and fold with you guys, but really it's good now. So if you get to the point where it can pass the window pane test, you're good. You're golden. I'll do a 4th one with you just to show you, but look at that. Look at how cute it looks. And at this point, I really don't know personally why I would wear gloves. There's really nothing on my hands. There's like this little bit on my hands. It's not getting stuck. Okay, the stronger the gluten is, the less sticky the dough will be. So at this point, it's really not getting stuck to my hands. I'm touching it and nothing is sticking to me. It's a little bouncy already too. Oops, sorry. It's a little bouncy already too. That is because it's a high inoculation. It is starting to ferment already, right? It's starting to go. So we'll wait another 20 minutes. And we will do one more stretch and fold just to show you guys a 4th one. But it actually is good right now. It's pretty good. You could stop now. You don't have to do a 4th one. But we'll do a 4th one. It won't ruin the dough to do a 4th one. And then we'll let it do its bulk fermentation. So yeah, getting back to the lemon tree. You can grow a lemon tree inside. You can grow like anything inside, really. You just need a lot of light coming in. So in my living room, I have a lot of light coming in. That's where I am right now, by the way. I'm in my living room. Welcome to my living room. I'm sorry. I don't know why that's funny. Welcome to my living room. And so I do have a lot of plants in here. I have a pepper plant, which I thought was dead, but is regrowing. So I don't think the thing's gonna die. I mean, I think it'll live forever. I shouldn't say that. Now that I said that, it'll die, but it's alive and it's flowering. I've had that thing for 4 years. I thought last year it maybe got a fungus last year, and it was like kind of, and I was gonna get rid of it, but I'm like, let me see what happens next year. I waited it out all winter, and now it's regrowing, so it's never gonna die. I have scallions, and I have 2 parsley, and then I have fig. So that takes up my whole window, but I'm still gonna grow more parsley because I'm crazy. Um, but I do like I would grow more, but again, I don't have that much window space. And the more you have growing, the more, from my experience, the more you have growing, the more chance you have to get like bug problems. So it's harder to manage it the more you have growing, especially indoors. Well, actually, I don't know, especially indoors, because I've never had an outdoor garden. So I can't really say, especially indoors. But from my experience, yeah, it happens a lot indoors, especially because everything's in a pot. And the fungus gnats. I didn't have any fungus gnats last year, okay, guys? Okay. So that's amazing. So I'm hoping for that this year. But I did have spider mites. But let's go back. I digress. But you can grow like almost anything inside. So my fig plant, my fig tree is doing great. And he's inside. He doesn't grow figs yet, but he's doing great. I've seen people grow lemon trees inside. I've seen people grow avocado trees inside. I've seen people grow like almost any kind of tree inside. But yeah, they will get big, but you know, I'm excited for my fig tree to get big. I like he's so cute and he's huge. So yeah, but by the time the 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 goal is by the time that this guy is too big to fit in a pot, we are going to move and buy a house and plant him outside. So that's a goal. Okay? That is the goal. But yeah, if any of you have gardens, let me know what's in your garden. Let me know, because it's gardening season, right? It's time to be planting everything for the summer. Winter's over. It's April already, so growing season is starting. And it's exciting. But yeah, back to and those of you who are gardeners, let me know. Let me know if you have this problem. So when I first started gardening inside, I first started during the pandemic. So, well, no, that's not entirely true, but it's kind of true because that's when I moved here to Bayonne. I used to live in Brooklyn, and we moved to Bayonne in 2019, December 2019. So really, our first year here was when the pandemic happened, and that was the first year I started gardening like a lot. I did have some plants in my Brooklyn apartment, but yeah, not like here. Here I really went to the wall. I really went into it. The pandemic probably helped me do that too because I really didn't have anything to do, and I was so depressed during that time. So I gardened, and maybe it helped, maybe it didn't, because I was upset that we had fungus gnats. We had so many fungus gnats, and now I know why. Like I learned from my mistakes. I did have a lot of plants going, but the problem was I had them in too big of pots. So you guys let me know in the chat if you've had this problem. So everything's inside, right? And I have a lot of plants growing, and I'm thinking I should give them space to grow so I can put them in a bigger pot so they can have space. But the problem is you don't want to put them in pots that are too big because then the bottom of the soil gets soggy. And you know who likes that? The fungus gnats like that. The fungus gnats love the soggy soil. And fungus gnats lay eggs in the soil, and then the eggs hatch and the larva eats the roots. It's disgusting, really. We had a lot of that. It was so gross, and I was so upset. It was just last year. I didn't have any fungus gnats, So that was amazing. I think that was the first year with zero fungus gnats. But we did have fungus. I don't know what's worse. We had fungus from the mint plants, and then we also had spider mites, which I still have. I still have. Tell the spider mites to go away, okay? Um, but spider mites are really annoying, but they're really not as bad as fungus gnats or fungus because they won't kill the plants, and you can because they don't live in the soil. They don't live in the soil. They live on the leaves, so they're kind of easy to spot. So when I check my plants, I look at their leaves and I'm like, they're small, but they're called spider mites because they lay web. They like lay webs. They build webs on the leaves. So what I don't usually see the fungus gnats. Sometimes I do if they're like really big guys. Um, but they make webs on the leaves, so you can see the web. So that's usually what I see. I see webs on the leaves, and I'm like, ooh, I got you. And then I spray the plants with some organic fungicide and insecticide that I have. But yes, the spider mites. They do ruin the leaves, though. They'll make the leaves turn yellow and brown. They're not good. They're bad, but they don't usually kill plants. I don't think I've ever had. Well, they damage the plants, so sometimes they damage the plants, and then the plants might die because I didn't catch them in time. I mean, I've had that happen, but for the most part, they're not deadly. Like I can spot them and get rid of them. Fungus gnats and fungus are a bigger problem, in my experience. Okay, that's just my experience. But yeah. So I do have some new parsley guys cooking. I'll keep you updated. It probably will take a few weeks for them to sprout because they started a little late. But I'll keep you updated on how they're doing. I have 3 of them going, but I planted 3 in the hopes that 2 out of the 3 will work because sometimes some of them don't work. They're kind of weak or something, or they don't even sprout. That happens. Munchkin's being really cute. I don't think I can show you Munchkin without moving everything now because I have the camera set up. Maybe I'll get a cat cam. I'll have like so many webcams. I'll get a cat cam that's just pointed towards Munchkin, and Munchkin's my cat, by the way. If you hear a sneezing going on in the background, that's Munchkin. But he's got his head like in the blanket, like he's so cute. Yeah, so Munchkin likes to sit here with me because I think he just likes to bake with me. He follows this last night. Oh my god, last night he was following my husband just around the house, like all around the house, no matter where my husband went. He got up and trotted, and it's so funny. It's just so funny seeing him trot behind him, just like, I'm here. He followed him to the bathroom. He followed him to the kitchen. He went everywhere. Everywhere. It was so funny. So yeah, he's like a little dog, a little. He's something. He's a little angel, is what it is. Yesterday it was like windy and rainy, but I mean, otherwise, I think a lot of people are complaining that it's too cold, but honestly, I think we've been having good spring weather. It's rainy, but it's not horrible. Yesterday was a little cold, but mostly because it was windy and rainy, I feel. Spring has sprung. Mm-hmm. So yeah, we're about to do the last stretch and folds. And then I am going to leave this for 3 to 4 hours to bulk ferment. Bulk ferment is just the first fermentation stage, right? So essentially, it's just going to rise. It's like the first rise. It's going to rise until it reaches just about the top here. That's what we want, just the top of this. So it should at least double. And then once it rises all the way, I'm going to come back on stream and we're going to put the dough into the pan, dimple it with chili oil, which is the fun part. Let it proof. And then we will bake it. We will bake it here. So that'll be fun. Okay, let's do the last stretch and fold. Okay. Yeah, I can't like tell what's going on here. Okay, yeah, that's good. That's good. Okay. Let's do one more. I'm gonna wet my hand again. You can kind of see, oh, there you go. You can see it. Can you see through the dough? Kind of, right? You can kind of see that you can see through the dough. That's how you know the gluten's good. Let's try again. Let's see if you can see through the dough. Oop, it broke. That's not good. Maybe I was stretching it too much. Yeah, you can see through the dough. That's great. I can feel that there's already like a lot of gas in here. There's a lot of air. So yeah, at this point we're gonna stop because I don't want to degas it too much. Although at this state, degassing it's not really that big of a deal. And degassing is just taking the gas out of the dough, taking the air out of the dough. I say it's not that big of a deal because it'll get big. It's going to get a lot of gas bubbles in it, a lot of air bubbles in it. So it'll be okay. See, it's jiggly already. There's a lot of air in it already. That's just because it has a high inoculation. It's already starting to rise. So it's going to rise to the top here. So like right here, all the way to the top. So what we're going to do, oh, that's here. See, it's all mirrored. It's hard for me to tell what's going on. All the way to the top. So I'm going to close it up. And I'm going to come back around 1 p.m. I'll come back a little earlier if it finishes earlier, but I think from my testing and I think it was around the same temperature in the house on Thursday. Okay, I think it took about till 1 p.m. for it to be done. So I'll come back around 1 p.m. and then I will, then I'll show you the end, right? And what we're going to do is we're going to take it out, put it in the pan, we're going to dimple it with oil, and then we're going to put it into we're going to wait for it to proof so it gets all those nice bubbles, and then we'll bake it. So we'll do the whole thing today. Okay. Let me put in, for those of you who are still here, let me put in my socials. If you guys can't make it later for whatever reason and you still want to see it, the stream is automatically uploaded to Twitch for 2 weeks, and then I upload it onto my YouTube. So before it's off of Twitch, I will upload it onto my YouTube. Then here are all my other socials too, and including, I'll put it in my website. So I'm on YouTube. I have a Discord, as you guys already know. I'm on Instagram and I'm on Pinterest. And then I also have a website where I post my recipes and also updates on my cottage bakery. If you're interested in my cottage bakery, also follow me on Instagram. I post updates on there as well. My Pinterest is really just for my recipes. So if you want to know more about my recipes, go there. And then My YouTube, I do post videos on there. I post shorts and shorter videos of me making the things we make here. And then I also repost all my Twitch streams. So if you're interested in that, go there and follow me there. But without further ado, does anyone have any questions about what we did today? Or what we're doing later? Feedback, concerns, complaints? I know with Dylan has complaints. Dylan's complaint is that I didn't use gloves. So sorry about that. So without further ado, I will see everyone in a few hours. And yeah, I'll see everyone in a few hours. And if you cannot make it in a few hours for whatever reason, everything will be posted on Twitch for 2 weeks and then on YouTube. So bye everyone. It was nice mixing the dough and doing the stretch and folds with you. And I hope to see you in a few hours where we're going to dimple the dough, which of course everyone's favorite part of focaccia is dimpling the dough. So I'll see everyone. Bye. Thank you for coming.